What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of Medical Sales Unfiltered. We got your boy Jacob on the other line, and we apologize that we weren't on last time. That was on me. I was super busy, as you guys are going to start telling. COVID's ending in this area, right? So more appointments. I'm sure Jacob's seeing that on his end, and
Yeah.
just got to fix our schedules. And then this guy over here, man, he's fucking 2 hours behind me. So, I don't want to be up super late. I got kids. He's like the young guy, but it's like right now it's what, 10 my time, so it's only 8 o'clock his time. Like,
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm living the good life, man. I just called one of my friends
right?
in Florida, and I'm driving home from the gym at 6:30, and I'm like, oh, it's 9:30. He's probably almost in bed right now.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't even know. I'm so glad that unanimously they voted to end daylight savings time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in on that. But,
Well, they
but
did the
which one?
research. They did the research because it's like there's way more accidents that actually happen, and more people die because people are tired and they don't get their sleep.
Yeah, it's like that 1 hour, and somehow it just messes everybody up, like
Yeah, that's why I love it.
massively.
Arizona never changes. So we're always the same. What happens is we're either Mountain Standard Time or we're now in Pacific Standard Time. So I'm always trying to
Yeah,
just figure out what time zone I'm in. But yeah, we never change. We're always the same time all year round. We're the only
it
state.
just makes me wonder what they're gonna do. Like, I like this time better because I like waking up and it's still kind of dark, so it's late, so it's light later compared
Yep.
to it being light earlier. So when they end this, I hope it's this time instead of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
earlier time.
yeah.
So, dude, tell me, it's been 2 weeks. I want to know like a couple of good things and a couple of bad things that are going on right now, because a lot of people obviously they listen to both of us to just understand how to get into medical sales and what it
Yeah.
is. But really, like, what I want to talk about is the shit that we're going through on our weekly basis. And
Yeah.
I always wanted to kind of use this as also another way to hold myself accountable,
Yep.
to what my goals are. So, some good and some bad.
Yeah. Let's start with the good because it's the easiest to talk about what's going on right now. So last week I closed uh, two deals that totaled $55,000, which officially put me over quota for the year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so got shout outs from the VP and everybody. That was nice. Um, Again, this is my first full year with Med Device, so officially came in and proved that, hey, I can sell. And again, this was a territory that was the lowest performing. I have it taped up 66 of 66 in the nation. And now I'm about to close another probably about 50 to 100K this month. And so I'm flirting with the top 10. And that's my goal, to do that. So that's been a big win. Have gotten a couple new doctors, that I wasn't expecting. And then also, as you know, right, in this relationship based business, it's been cool to, I go have kind of talks with some of my guys. I'm like, hey, it's quota time. You know,
Mhm.
you want to throw a dog a bone, and being able to get some help with that stuff. So that's been some of the cool stuff. Seeing it lately just go on, and then like for me right now, everything I'm doing for the next month is overage for me, which is
Mhm.
a fun, nice, like to see all your hard work pay off. It's nice. And then people see that, and then you start getting DMs and messages from recruiters and all that stuff. And it's crazy, so like, I'm just like, okay, but it's just been that's been the good, a lot of fun, hit quota, starting to like have conversations of, like, okay, what's out there. But again, I'm very loyal to my company. I like where I work, but I think I tell everybody, and I've said this to people that are on my team, and I've said it to my manager, like, I'm always going to talk to people because I'm going
Mhm.
to see what market value is, right? If I'm getting paid 50 to 70K under market value, well, then that's a problem for me. You know what I mean? Like, not the company loves it, but I need to make sure we're all doing good. So that's been the good, the bad for me. Just the usual. It's nothing I'm not used to. Some of my accounts, my teammate has given all my information to them, and they still don't call me. And then my manager's like getting emails from random people saying, "Why haven't you contacted these people?" And I'm like, I looked at the email where they messaged back and said, "Hey, great to be working with you, Jacob." Like, so you're dealing with that. New doctors. I did an in-service last week with a team that, again, the whole time I'm there, they're sitting on their phone. They're not paying attention. They're the same people who complain that our stuff's so hard to use. But you go do an in-service and then they sit on their phone and then don't want to learn it. So just that's the normal stuff. I had my associate come out. She got to see some of it. And then one other bad thing, and it's just sales. That's why I want to put it in there is, I had a $60,000 quote out. It was looking like it was going to close and everything was going really good. And just real life, I let my associate that was there that day take the case. I had other cases to go, and this was a pretty chill doctor in a chill facility. Didn't go so hot. This was her first case.
Shit hits the fan.
Yep.
That's when shit hits the fan.
And luckily, I was able to come in during the middle of the case and kind of like save it. Like, hey, I have the conversation, right? Because this doctor always laughing, always happy. I walked in and he was pissed, and I'm like, I've never seen him pissed, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here, right? And I later find out after another surgery we had, just me and him, found out why, but then he knew my assistant was going to be there for the second case a week later, and he texted me. He's like, hey, we're just going to go in with a different thing. Like, we don't even need you for this procedure. And I'm like, yeah, no worries at all. And then I get a text 10 minutes later from the person who is in charge of the quotes, the OR director. And she's like, hey, your doctor's no longer requesting you here anymore. And we don't need to move forward with your quotes. So it's fine for the fact that he uses me at another facility. He was just kind of my in to that next facility. But now I'm going to have, and I've noticed it, right? Like, you can feel it, like your doctor's super cool, but we've talked about grabbing a dinner together just for like networking. And then also like with I know one of my buddies knew him. That's how I got connected. So it's me saying thank you to everyone. And I sent a group text and I'm like, hey, when are we doing dinner? And he's like, in person, he was like, yeah, I look forward to it. In the text, he never responded back. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then, and then there's been no text of the dinner. So I'm like, okay, there's a little, pullback. So just, that's some of the real life of like, okay, now I got to kind of do a little digging on his end. But otherwise, the week's been good. But like you said, I'm ready for a I've been telling people once quote is done, May hits, I'm probably taking a week or two vacation. And during that, I'm going to a place where my phone can't even ring. Like, no service, no nothing. I'm so sick of seeing my phone and my emails blow up.
Yeah, no, that'll be nice, man.
What about you, brother?
On my end, similar to you, dude. So we talked a little bit last time about quotas, and so I'm still very early into the year. We work on trimesters, so April will be the end of the first trimester, but I'm currently already sitting at 107% to quota. So that's what's up, and just like you're saying, the check will just keep getting bigger and bigger. But then the downside to that is that goalpost gets moved as soon as May hits.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like we should, like, after you good and bad, I feel like we should maybe talk about kind of the different structures, because I've been talking to more and more people kind of like how your structure is, and kind of interesting about it.
Yeah, so I mean that's awesome. Regardless, I think it's great because for me, the good of it is, I was telling you before, in this role, in like the biotech space, you're changing a mindset, and the product that I sell and like educate on is something that really you have to change your mindset, because it's a radio labeled pharmaceutical, and doctors aren't necessarily comfortable with using it so early in line. And for patients to be getting this, and for me to already be at quota, at least for like the facilities that I have, that's what's awesome, is that these patients are getting treated. And we had a great patient at our national meeting like talk to us, and she talked about her journey. And this wasn't necessarily within my disease space, but hers was, this was in like a different disease space, but she talked about how what we do actually matters. And sometimes, just like you're talking about, like, I have those bad appointments where doctors just aren't listening, or I literally just catered the office and they're giving me like 2 minutes of their time. And I get pretty flustered, and I'll even tell them, I'm like, listen, this is not, like, 2 minutes is not enough for me to let you know what this product can do. So let me know when works best for you, but can we get on the phone? And sometimes it really works. Like, I've gotten so many cell phone numbers in that sense. But
which that by itself is huge. Just getting a doctor's cell phone is another game changer.
And it's wild. I feel like a lot of people don't ask, and I'm always blunt about it. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to blast you, but like, do you want to exchange numbers? Because of this disease state, you don't have that many patients. So I just feel like if you have a question, it's super easy for you to just text me and I can get you whatever it is you want. And a lot of times they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Here's my cell phone number. And like I said, I never message them unless it's absolutely necessary, because I want to maintain that relationship. But like, so the good is, I should be seeing pretty solid commission check coming in sometime. I guess we close at April, May, June. So in June, because we're like 60 days past the damn day to get paid. So that sucks. You're like 6 months in to get your first bonus. The bad, dude, flights and rental cars right now. They're like either you find a great flight, but the places that you're going to don't have rental cars. So I've put in just under 2,500 miles in the last week, and today I drove round trip 9 hours, and Wednesday I'm on a round trip 8 hour because I can't stay overnight. I have another appointment back in my hometown. So I have to go to that appointment and then be back that same day. So travel, dude, like you do it a lot too. I'm finally getting back into the field, and it's just wild. People don't understand, like when you have a territory that's so large, there's so much windshield time. And during that time, it's not just, calling your homies and podcasting and this and that, which I definitely do, but I'm trying to figure out how to move business.
Well, it's that time. And then also, like, here's the thing that I tell everybody, because you know it. So I like that one, the deal I just closed for $51K. To get that deal, I had to rent a car and I drove 10 hours to get to that deal. And then I set it up. I picked it up, rental car on a Sunday, left at 6 a.m. on a Monday, got there at 5 o'clock on a Monday night, got everything dropped off, set up, got to my hotel at 7 o'clock, ate dinner, went to bed, was at the hospital at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. 5 cases. Usually I'd be done by 1. I was there till 5 p.m. Got in my car, drove 2.5 hours to Lubbock, Texas. Got in, ate dinner, woke up at 4 o'clock my time, and was on a plane 5:30 a.m. my time to get here at 7:30 to then work all day on Wednesday. But the reason I'm saying all that is during that time, I still had 20 emails, 30 emails just from the day. So like when I'm eating lunch, it's not like I stopped to grab gas and eat lunch. It's like I'm checking all my emails, having to reply back to everybody for the week. I'm having to text messages and stuff like that. So yeah, even though it's just like you travel, and yeah, it can be cool to travel and get some downtime and get some podcast in, you're still having to work. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I tell everybody, like I give all my number or my accounts my number, and I'm like, I have my phone on me 24/7. If you have a question, call me, text me, FaceTime me, right? And so there's a stress with that. Like it gets to the point, as you already know this, if I don't have my work phone on me, like to even go to the bathroom, I'm like, crap, where's it at? Because that's all it takes is for me to like be in there, and then I'm getting a call from account that's doing a case that nobody let me know about, and then they're freaking out.
Yeah, no, I know how you feel. Today I left and I was rushing this morning, and so I didn't have my work phone, but I had my tablet, which is attached like to my phone. So any texts that I get and stuff, I can at least see them. But then you're driving and you're getting these notifications on this big ass screen, and you're just like, oh man, okay, hold on, let me try to answer that real quick. And I just felt lost because just like you're saying, I didn't have my work phone on me to be able to just answer emails real quick and do what I needed to do. But that's part of the gig, right? Like they give you so many devices that you're just having to watch. I remember when I first started, I won't say where because I don't want them to come back at me and be like, yo, this is what happened. But like I was covering so many cases and I put my iPad down somewhere at a hospital. So granted, this is at a hospital. And somebody fucking jacked it. And I got on to like find my tablet, and I literally found it, and it was like walking out of the hospital. I'm like running out of the OR to like try to go find where it's at. And then it just gets shut off. And I was like, well, there that goes. I was like, just got hired, already lost like, a company product. I'm telling my manager, and I'm like, so my tablet's gone, it got stolen. And they're like, dude, it happens, man. Just call customer service, they'll send you another one. And I was like, all right, cool.
We had somebody accidentally on our team leave it in their car, and they're like, I promise I live in a good area. Someone broke in and jacked it. But like with my company, right, it's all SEO'd and stuff. You need usernames just to get in. So that person's never getting in. And then like our company can just shut down the whole thing to make it literally worthless. So
Yeah, I mean, like that's exactly what ended up happening. So like, kudos to whoever got it. They basically just have a paperweight at this point. Dude, and the funny thing is that's the second time that happened to me because when I was working at Cintas, I had a bunch of product in the back of my Jeep, but at the time I had my soft top on, not the hard top. So thank God, and I lived in Houston, and I'm super thankful that that guy decided not to fucking like rip the vinyl of like the back of the Jeep, but they left it open in the middle of a rainstorm. I'm like, dude, you stole the bags. At least just zip it back up, right? Like you took what you took. Just come on, man. The whole back of my Jeep was just like soaked
That's
and stuff.
hilarious. Yeah, man. But hey, so some good, some wins with it.
Yeah.
But the one thing I did want to just talk to you, because that's a great point what you said, because I've been talking to some other companies that they do it this way. Like let's talk real quick about the difference of like, so when I get paid out, I get paid out yearly. So for me,
Hmm.
I'm getting one big bonus check of everything I do. But there's a lot of companies such as yours where it's going to quarterly. And then let's talk about kind of like the pros with it, but also the cons, because I feel like there's a couple good and a couple bad with it.
So that's wild. I didn't know that that's how you got paid because I would say the biggest where I'm at now. So I'll compare it to I won't compare it to Striker because Striker was like 100% commission and you got paid out every
Yeah.
month of what you sold for that previous month. So I'll compare it to like more like Olympus and Cintas. So both of these companies had very similar starting salaries, which were trash, between like 30 and
Yeah.
45,000. And then you got paid monthly on your sales. So you could have a really great month and have an awesome commission check come in, and it's very much feast or famine, or you have a very shitty month and your next check sucks. So like you should still be living off of your ratio of your shit base
Yeah.
salary. Whereas where I'm at now, I get paid probably a bonus like every 6 months because we're on trimester. So every 4 months they calculate that, but it takes 60 days from that calculation to get paid. So pretty much every 6 months. But I get probably about 80% of my income in
Yeah.
salary. So I just look at that as like literally bonus. Like it's just bonus money. I don't count on it. It's great when it comes in, like how right now I'm above quota. It's going to be awesome. But I've also seen it when I'm not above quota and it's just a tiny little commission check. And I'm like, I'm glad I'm not relying on
Yeah.
this right now.
Yeah. And so like that's a good point. And then the one thing, and I'll go into mine and then we can kind of go in. So like how I get paid is very similar to yours is, so I get a base and a commission. My first paycheck is just my base. So my first paycheck of the month is always, it's no money. And then the second paycheck is my base plus commission. So it's my bigger one. But I have a yearly one, just like you said, you get paid out for the prior month before. But then it's like, what are you at plan? So if I have a certain quota, what am I at that certain point? And that's how it affects my stuff. Now I'll just be straight up. Here's the problem with it. I talk to people on my teammates. I talk to my manager. My manager doesn't even know how we get paid. They don't, because the formulas for these companies are so, you need to go to college just for like math and algorithms, because that's how difficult they make it. It's like a 17-step process to tell you how you get paid. Because I literally messaged my manager and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of confused. Like I'm at over 100%, but my last paycheck was literally no money. And it was like 50% of what I normally just get paid out. And I'm like, I'm confused. And she's like, yeah, I'm not going to lie, me too. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't make much sense. And so like for me, I was like, I'm not going to throw a fit. I'm not going to make it thing. But like for me, this month, I've crushed it. Like with quota coming in and making these sales, I'm doubling what my quota was be. So I'm like, if I don't get like a 4X on my payout this month, we are
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm calling VP and figuring out where's my money. So like we've had those conversations, but like going back to normal. So again, it's base is my first one, and then base plus commission is my second one. And then how they do it is they do how I'm split up is 50% salary, 50% commission, and then those two numbers make up my at year plan. So then I go,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm pretty much just at year. But then how my company does it is you're just at plan, and then if you are above plan, we have two buckets. We have a quota and a capital bucket. So if you hit one of them, you're 15% overage. If you hit both of them, you're 30% overage. So, let's just keep money simple. If you're 100 grand over and you're in one bucket, you made $15,000 bonus check. You get both, you're at a $30,000 bonus check. So that's nice, right?
For the end of the year.
For the end of the year, and that's for the whole year, right? Like, so that compared to the difference is you're getting a quarterly or every 6 months, right? Because by the time you get paid. But I've talked to other companies that every quarter they're giving a payout. So like, instead of me getting one giant paycheck, these people are getting bonuses. I talked to a girl, she's in the aesthetic space, and her comment was they're 150 at plan. But she's like, I get quarterly bonuses, and my quarterly bonus is between 20 and 60K. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. Compared to like,
not bad at all.
Yeah. Compared to like us is like, it's just one big thing at the end of the year. So you're working all year for that. And then like, just being straight up, this is why I like to talk about this, is like, everybody has faced back orders. I just checked the other day. I had over $20,000 in open orders, which means they have the POs. It's been placed. My company just hasn't fulfilled it. Well, they're trying. The talk is they don't know if they're going to pay us on those open orders. And I'm like,
that's always the rough one.
And I told my manager, I was like, I will like lose my mind, because I'm after making that $55,000
because it's sold. It's not your fault.
No, and
this is the company's issues.
And then this is the talk they do, right? Well, we'll just wait till next year to give it, and then it goes towards your bonus, so you still get paid. And I'm like, no. That just goes towards my salary. But like, if I'm looking at a $30,000 to $40,000 payout check, that comes off that open order sale, and you just screwed me to like put it towards my numbers next year. Which, guess what? You're going to raise, and I'm going to have to work harder just to be at plan. So that's kind of the talk with like the payment. But I just wanted to say it because I think it's super interesting, because the reason I wanted to bring this up for everybody is I get a number at the beginning of the year, and let's be straight up, it's usually like 2 or 3 months into my year. So like the first 2 months of quota, we don't even know what we're selling for, because you don't even have your numbers, and then they're just going to give it to you halfway in, and you're seeing it.
I mean, that's what's going to happen to me right now. Like I'm already above quota. So at the end of this trimester, I'm going to finish above quota, but then all of May, I still won't know what my next quota is going to be. So there goes an entire month of a 4-month trimester that I'm just shooting in the dark. I'm like, all right, well, I know that it's increasing, but how much did it increase by?
No, exactly. And so that's why I want to talk to you about it, because like for me, there's a little of the security of like, hey, my quota is getting raised, but it's once a year, right? Because it's one time a year. I'm not worrying about the thing. I've seen a lot of these companies go into the quarterly, and I've talked to reps, and it's interesting because I want you to speak to this, but it's like, for example, if I have a good year this year, what are they going to do? They're going to raise me. And so now I have to go up and do that. Well, that's a little different if you're yearly compared to you go to quarterly and you have a good quarter. Well, then they make your next quarter insane. Well, now you make no money at the quarterly instead of the yearly.
Yeah. So I'll let me backtrack to how you were getting paid real quick. So at Olympus, very similar when it came to buckets. And so again, you had this very small salary, and your first paycheck, because you got paid every 2 weeks, was your salary. Then the next paycheck was that paycheck that came with the commission. And just like you're saying, it's so good for people to hear this, because when I went to Stryker, I was thinking in my mind like, oh, great, like I'm going to be making this money, but Stryker pays you on the 15th of every month. So you get one paycheck a month, and you're going to have to literally figure out how to do your budget accurately, because you're only getting that one paycheck. But at Olympus, you would get that second check. And just like, so a little bit opposite of yours is every quarter, though, if you hit your buckets, if you didn't hit your disposable bucket, then your total number, as long as you hit your quota, you would get paid 7% of that percentage as a bonus for the quarter. Now, if you hit your, because you had a capital and disposable, if you hit your disposable number as well as your capital number, then you got 10%. So like every single quarter, at least you're looking at another kicker of making a little bit more money. And then the next piece that I wanted to touch on was the fact that like neither your manager like even knew what was going on. Dude, I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before. You've read Extreme Ownership, right? And so when Jocko was talking to that one VP, and she was like so stoked about how the pay structure is, but he was like, dude, like you're like a math nerd. Like this makes sense to you, but your entire organization's like, I don't know how I get paid. You need to like
Yep.
simplify this so that these people know what is going on. And I can't agree with that more because like for me it's very straightforward now. I have I'll say like what mine is for this trimester. I have 17 new patients, and that doesn't sound like a lot, and it really is not like a huge number, but again, I work in a rare disease space. So I need to get 17 new patients in this trimester, which I'm already above that. But it's finite. Like that is it. Like as long as I get those patients, I know exactly what is happening.
And even for
Whereas
you,
like,
like as you mentioned, like you get a bigger salary, right? Like you're a salary,
mhm,
and it's a way higher salary compared to, I
yeah,
imagine we haven't talked off air, but like I imagine your salary is probably 2 or 3x what my quote unquote salary is, because then it's way more based on
yeah,
commission, but that's what the commission is, and that's where we've talked about even for me how they do it is if you're under 80% of commission, you make $0. I think you get like point zero,
yeah.
you get point 0.8 of every dollar of what it is, whatever math. But if you're over 80%, you get 2.63 or whatever, and then that's how you get paid.
Yeah, I get literally for my bonus because that's why I look at it.
Yeah.
Just like we're talking, if I'm under 80%, it's a fat zero. They don't pay you
Yep.
at all, and so it kind of sucks, especially during COVID, because that was a rough time. And I did get one of those checks where I I think I finished at like 78%, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! Like if I just had one more patient, it wouldn't have been a great check, but it still would have been like literally a lot better than zero
No, yeah. Well, and
dollars.
that's the interesting
So
thing. That's why I tell everybody, because like even for me, like so like my teammates and stuff, if they're not running at 100%, and let's say they're not running at 80%, well, if our app plan is whatever it is, right, and they're not at hitting it, they're making no money. They're making less money than some
yeah,
associates are making. You know what I mean? And that was like the
That's what
talk
I figured.
is like some people can be like, okay, so that's why like the reason we're going such detail. This is again when you're first breaking into the industry and you're an associate, you can't really be choosy about like talking about pay structure and all this stuff. Like especially if you go to Striker, like I say to everybody, if you go to Striker, just you're gonna get paid no money. It's 55 grand, right? Like maybe they give you 70, maybe they give you 45. But I've talked to people that are like with J&J, like some of these top companies, they're making $40,000 and they're working a lot.
yeah, and the pay structure, just for people to be aware at Striker, unless it has changed, and I'm pretty sure it hasn't, you get paid once a month on the 15th, and you can bonus every quarter, but you're not bonusing. Like you're just hitting your quota. So it's kind of like yours. Like you're shooting for quota, and then at the end of the year, you get paid out on if you
Yep.
actually hit quota. And what's nice though is, let's say a lot of OR jobs, it's all based around like your insurance, and a lot of people don't hit deductibles till the end of the year. So a lot of people are like super heavy at the end of the year with their sales and how many cases they're running and everything. So like you have a light beginning of the year, a super heavy end of the year, and if you miss quota like Q1 and Q2, but you make it up in Q3 and Q4, you still get back paid
Nice.
for your missed quotas. So that's what's kind of cool. Whereas other companies, I'm pretty sure they don't do that. They don't like you miss out, like it's
Yeah,
out.
no, you're done. I do want to touch about this because I think this is super important. I've talked to a lot of people, and it's something you don't expect, especially with me running my own business and like being when I had my personal training business. If I made 70 grand, I made 70 grand. You know what I mean? Like I took home 70 grand, right? And then we have taxes, of course. I would
Mm-hmm.
budget for, hey, what tax bracket I'm in and all that good stuff. But then I also had tax write-offs, right? Like you learn that side. But the thing I learned, and I was very, very surprised, is you hit corporate America and you pay 401k, you pay insurance, you pay Medicare, Medicaid, like all this stuff. I don't know. I'd love to hear what it is for you, Peter. Like, and I'm not saying exact numbers, but like what I've told people is probably expect maybe 55% of actual take home pay. So, for example, if they're saying you're
Mm-hmm.
going to make $10,000 a month, I would say you're probably going to take home by the time you pay out taxes. If you're smart and do the 401k matches like you probably should and doing all that stuff, you might take home $5,000, maybe a little more than $5,000 a month, 55, 5,300. And that's been my experience. And I think that was a big learning curve for me, because I just remember when I first got my job offer and I signed the letter and I'm like looking at what my monthly revenue was going to be. I joked around with my roommates. I'm like, yo boys, like we're going out to a steakhouse on me. Like Dominic's out here is like, you're talking $100, $200 a meal, right? Or for a plate. So I'm like, guys, we'll go out, we'll have fun. Like it's on me. Let's celebrate. Well, then I got my first month paycheck and I'm like, we might have to hold off on that for a little bit, because like you see the number that you're getting, but by the time you pay out in taxes and all this stuff, you're like, dang, like, yeah, I didn't make nearly what I thought I was going to make.
Yeah, so I just ran the numbers real quick from just top of my memory. My take home after everything is probably about 68%.
Okay.
So like right off the bat, I'm already losing 32. And pretty much that's always how I do it. Like if I'm looking at a bonus, let's say it's a 10K bonus, I'm always assuming I'm going to take home about 7. 3K that's going to go to taxes and everything else. And but it's so weird at other companies, like your bonuses are taxed at like 50%. And I just never understood how that worked. Like I still don't get it. I'm like, all right, let me just see what I'm going to take home. And I really just wish like your fucking salary is what you're taking home, not.
No, yeah, but I just wanted to say
like, my God,
because like I joke around with people, for example, right? I'm like, you could go and be making, let's just say $120,000 a month or $120,000 a year. Well, to the average person, that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money, right? But it's like, okay, it's 10 grand a month. Well, by the time you're taking it home, it's like, I'm taking home like 5,300, or let's just say 60%. You're taking home 6 grand. Get great money. But when you're promised and you're working hard to make 10 grand, I know personal trainers that are making $12,000, $15,000 a month. And guess what? They run their own money and they run their own business. And guess what? It's cash pay half the time. So guess what? When they make 12 grand, they make 12 grand.
Government don't know.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's why I was laughing.
Yeah, it's like they made 12 grand, but they only reported, like
6. Yeah, and 100%. They're like, now they're taking over this cash. But it's even like this, right? Even if they did report it and they had 11 grand a month or 12 grand a month, but they bought equipment. They're paying rent to be somewhere. They bought a car and they're paying gas to get to their, like, there's tax write-offs that now it's just their everyday living that is now a deductible. And so that's a thing I just talk to people, and I wanted to mention on this, since we are talking a lot more about quote on payments this time, is that's something I didn't understand, because just being straight up, there's months even like last month, right? That's why I'm like kind of like, okay, that's weird. Yes, I understand that they're paying 401k. Yes, I understand I'm paying for insurance and all that good stuff, and that's great. But there's like been some months I'm like, I took home more money personal training, like straight cash, than I did doing this right now. And so I think that's something to just be said for everybody understanding, like, yes, this is a great living. Yes, there is stuff, but like also don't forget the government needs their piece,
No. And I mean, I feel like everybody thinks that as soon as they get into medical sales, they're going to be making at least 6 figures, 100 grand. And there are some positions that immediately, yes.
Even as an associate, we have one division here. I know they start the associate at 100K, but like my associate started, I think they started ours at 65K, our division. So, and that's really good, because I talk to people that start around 40 and 50K.
And most people are going to start out at that level, and they don't understand that it's going to take some time to even get to that 6-figure range. And then when you get to that 6-figure range, you're still like, if you're in the low 100s, it's not that big of a difference because of taxes from when you were at 60. And it's just wild. And talking about like when you're hitting quota and they're moving your number and all of those pieces, the biggest problem working for like these big box companies, and I'm talking like your Strykers, your Zimmer, Medtronic, Novartis, my company, like all these other companies, they have a stack of resumes. So if you're going to bitch about how much you're getting paid, like get out of here. They got somebody else that
I always joke around with everybody, right? Because I was that kid, right? I was the kid making 60, 70K as a trainer, making and having some good months. And then every year I sometimes I made more, but it's like, you're going to pay me 100 plus K. Like, you're going to pay me 6 figures. I was like, and I said this in my resume, in my interview. I just grinded for the last 3 years at 100 hours a week, making no money. You think, I was like, you throw money my way? Now I was like, you haven't even seen me work, right? And so I've come in and I've done it, right?
Yeah.
But now there's the part of me, like, I've had, like, you and I talk, and I literally just had to talk with my manager last week. You know, like, the market is the market. That's why I tell everybody they should be looking at it. I know, like, I literally got an offer. Again, I'm not taking it, but like, I got an offer. I could leave right now and make 40K right off the top. Right off the top. Like, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
Just that plan, I'm going to make 40 grand more. And so there's that stuff. But again, if I go to my company and be like, hey, I just got offered another 40K. What can you do? Well, the problem is with these big box companies, they don't look at it like that. They're not like, oh, here. No, they're like, well, Jake, you've only been a rep for 2 years. Well, to get the next promotion to be another 10 grand more than you're at now, you need to hit check mark 1, 2, 3 and have this much experience. And if you don't have those check
and
marks,
then they throw the big box name at you, like, you're here, you have all of this stability, blah blah blah.
Let's have a talk.
As we talked about
real quick
before,
about stability. That is like my one most biggest pet peeve. Let's just make this real clear. I work for the largest company in the world. I go up to my CPA and I tell her who I work for, and all I hear, amazing company, such a safe company. My biggest pet peeve, I didn't yell at her, but I'm like, what does that mean? What does safe mean? Because another division just laid off half its force in our company last week. Just laid them off because they didn't, and they restructured everyone's bonus. I just talked to one of my guys. A guy was #1 rep in the nation. He's not even going to hit President Club now because they restructured it. So you tell me what's safe, right? And everybody has this pre-notion of like, it's safe, but I'm like, it's safe until it's not with these big companies.
I'm like, it's safe in marketing and like compliance and all those other roles, but when it comes to sales, it's again feast or famine. Like, if the organization of that sales unit is not performing, or the corporate believes it's not performing at where it should
100%.
be, you're out.
If you're
like,
not a top rep, you're out. And like, that's why you guys should all know this, because this is why managers will be the most freaked out during those times. The managers are the easiest to replace because usually they're the one of the highest people. And as you and I know, I'm not saying managers don't do a lot, because they do, but I just talked to my buddy. They haven't had a manager in their territory for 3 months and they're all performing. Like, managers do help. Like, I'm not saying they don't, but they're very replaceable, because especially like if you hire the right candidates, like I tell everybody, that's one thing I actually love about my manager. I talk to my manager. The only time I talk to my manager is that when I'm like, hey, I just closed a $40,000 deal. Awesome. Good job. Or it's like, hey, I need this pushed because I just made a sale. Push it for delivery or put what. Like, that's really my talk. I'm not really having conversations with my manager of like coaching, because I'm like, I kind of got this figured out. Nobody's been out here. And if you make the right hires, you really don't need it. But I just say that because usually when you see the restructuring of an organization, they usually are going to start with upper management first, because they're usually the senior people getting paid more money, and they know that the organizations normally can probably run without them, compared to like if you have a top sales rep that's making the company money. And let's talk more ortho, right? This is what happens all the time. When you're the ortho rep and you're the top rep, like I have a buddy for Stryker, top rep in the nation, just won President Club. He has all the power because he tells the company, hey, like let's say he works at Stryker and he's like, Zimmer just offered me 200 grand or like 100 grand more right away off base and commission. And he already knows he can leave and convert a couple of his doctors right away because he has those relationships. That's when you have the power. But when you're going to like kind of the upper management, like I said, you could be a manager for years. And again, this is me brand new, so I always take that with a grain of salt. But from the experience, I've talked with a lot of people, even managers, they're probably the first people to get chopped on the chopping block.
And to talk again about like knowing your worth, like 100%. I tell people all the time, and I learned this unfortunately in this role, so I wasn't doing this prior, but now that I learned this knowledge, like you might as well share it, right? And it is like always interview at least once a year. within your space, if that's the space that you want to be in, or even like a sister space to what you do, and see what that market value is. Because if the discrepancy is that 40K, you have a leg to stand on, especially if you have an offer. And the problem though is I feel like a lot of people right now feel like they can't go up to their managers and have that conversation. And I thought that like deeply. I was like, there's no way I can talk to like my manager about this. And it's been two times now where it's kind of bit me in the ass, where as I'm having that conversation before I've even said that I already have another job offer, they're like, what can we do to like try to make things better for you? And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, you fucking can. I'm already taking this other offer. And I didn't even hear it out, like maybe they
can give you that raise,
better.
right? And like, that's why I think it's important to go through. And also, let's just be straight up. This is what we do. It's sometimes you got to keep your skills up, right? Medical device sales interviews, like even me, right? I always laugh.
Yeah.
We teach people breaking in. Well, I've gone through a couple. I've gotten the offers on the couple. Like, okay, I still got it. I still can close and do everything that I'm talking about. But no, I think that's a great point that you're saying, because I have a lady, she's been in med device and now she's in the pharma world for 20 years. And she's told her VP every year, she's like, I'm going to interview with another company. And it's not because I hate this company, because here's the reality. Everyone thinks the grass is greener. And sometimes you interview and you're like, the grass isn't greener. Like, I'm in a great spot. Or you're like, oh, maybe I'm not in a great spot and I need to grow. And like that, oh, these guys are offering me $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 more to do the same job. Well, that's pretty interesting. What people are. So again, I always have that talk. Again, I'm not here to like like company hop and do all that different stuff. But the conversation I do have, and I've had this with people. First off, if you ever leave a company, no matter what you do, even if you do it the right way, there's going to be people pissed off. It just is what it is. There's going to be people who hate you, who are going to say things about you. It doesn't matter. Like, it is what it is. But I've had this conversation with so many people. One of these guys actually just talked to me because they're a top rep. You have to be almost stupid to not consider jobs that are paying you $50,000 to $100,000 more to do the exact same job with possibly the same work-life balance.
Well, we talked about it. Yeah, we talked about it. There's a sense of, I want to say, in the older community, loyalty. And they believe that people like us, that I'm about to be like 3 years in the same role, which is pretty high for millennials, but it's the fact that like every 2 to 3 years, if you take on another challenge and you excel at that challenge, you have more skills in your toolbox than somebody that's been somewhere for 10 years. So if you have 10 years at, let's say 9 years, so that you can go 3 different companies. So 3 different companies and you have 9 years compared to somebody that has 9 years at the same company. In my opinion, and to the opinion of bigger like companies, they've even said it themselves. This person that has these 3 different experiences comes in with more of more growth potential than the person that's been somewhere for now.
That's a talk, and it's a very good purpose, because I actually talked to a manager. They almost have the opposite, where they're like, we need to see you at a place for 5+ years, 8+ years, because that shows you're committed. You're not going to jump around. But like you just said, that's every manager is going to be different. Like we talk about this all the time. Everybody's going to have their different feelings. But then, like you said, I would argue, well, if I was at 3 different companies in 3 years, in the 9 years instead of 1, I probably learned a lot more different skills, different processes, and I probably have way more relationships, good or bad, whatever that manager is looking at. But yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that, since we are talking quota. I think this fits really into it. But again, you guys, once you break in, I tell people there's a lot of stuff like I'm talking to you guys about. I had no idea when I broke in, no idea, and then you get into it, and then it's like, I talked to my buddy and I'm like, oh, you left and you're going to work half the amount of hours I do and you just got a $50K base raise. Like, without even trying, you're going to make $50K more. Like, even with my bonus this year, I'm going to be lucky if I make what you did. And I worked my ass off and I am exceeding and I'm in the top 10. And you're just at plan for your company and not even top 10. And like, that's the talk I tell people. If that's $50K at plan, Well, what happens if I'm coming in, I'm a high achiever and I go and now I get a $30,000 to $50,000 payout check. Well, now I made not 50, I made 80 to 100K more than I would if I stayed at my current company. So like that's the talk with everybody that I think you got to
Well,
talk.
the funny thing too that you brought up, like a manager told you, I want to see you somewhere longer. Literally, the guy that we were just talking about that I'll get you in contact with, when he was interviewing, a manager, like a hiring manager, told him the same thing. He said, "Man, in the last like 3 years, I've just seen like a little bit of job hopping," and they were like specific reasons why. Like this guy went from living in Omaha, took a job to come back home to be close to his family in Dallas. And then that role definitely didn't pay what they promised it was going to pay, which was why he was looking. And he was like, "You literally just like took this job a year ago and you're already looking to leave. Like, I want to see more commitment." And then less than like 6 months later, he's interviewing for another role. And that's the fucking VP that comes in to interview him. And didn't like cross his mind that he had already interviewed this guy, and talked to like harped on him about switching roles. And if you go to that guy's LinkedIn, he's been at like
Yeah.
3 different companies in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, the fuck, dude, what do you mean you want stability when you're fucking bouncing
because I always, like you guys, I talk to people, I network still while I'm in the career, because you never know, right? Like you can never get, I've said this on the podcast, I've joked around, I'm like, my company could see me, I could be fired tomorrow. Like you don't know what the world has, but I'm always going to be networking. And that was one of the guys, he said the same thing, the guy who just told me, you need to stay at this place for 3 to 5 more years. You need to get the relationships. So then if you ever went to like a startup or whatever it is, you could make those calls right away, right? And then I'm like, and I just straight up asked him, I said, okay, then what's the question is, what if you could leave today and at plan make 60 grand more at plan with doing this exact same job and working probably less? What would you do? Are you going to stay at the same job and work 30 for 3-4 more years and miss out on 400K? Well, oh no, probably not. Well, then what's your advice? That's what I said to him. Well, then he's like, well, then go make the jump. I'll make sure it's in the same industry or the same division, right? Or not. I don't know. But like that was like he literally said that to me, and then I just put it right back on him as like the manager. I'm like, well, you just gave me this advice, but then what if you're in my shoes? What if you can go and leave today and make, not even trying, and just at base plan you make 60 grand more, a whole person's salary? And he's like, well, that's it. Well, yeah, you would be dumb not to do that. And I'm like, but you just said if I need to stay here for another 3 years. So you just went back on what you said. And so then that's when I'm like at the clarity part of like, okay, at the end of our conversation, I'm like, appreciate it. Because he gave me good advice, but I'm like, you just said one thing, and then you said another thing, and you're the person who would hire for this role. Like, what would you actually want?
No, exactly. It's I feel like a lot of times they're there with like this little power struggle, and they're in the power seat and they like to pretend like they hold all the power. But it's, again, you're also, for the people that are listening, like you're also interviewing them. Like, is this the culture and the person that you want to go work for? Like right there, this guy already flip-flopped within the conversation that you're having. I'd be looking at this guy like, man, I don't want to work for this guy as a manager,
because that's a great point, man. I want to just touch on this because I've had managers, again, it's not like I go out and I'm interviewing all the time. I've had managers just reach out to me because they see my stuff I post on LinkedIn or whatever it is, and they're like, you seem like a great rep. Like, I just had a recruiter who's like, I need you on my team, right? And they see the stuff. But I laugh because here's a telltale sign. I'll just be straight up sometimes. I'll take my number and I'll make it astronomical because I know what the market's paying. And then I'm like, I'm going to do 20 grand above that. So let's for fun. Let's say my buddy's at 180. I'm like, I need 200 if I'm even going to consider this. And then if this is how I know, if the manager says 200, that's a lot. I'm like, you never made 250,000 in your life. I don't want to work for you right away, because they'll be promising you. Like I've actually had this happening. Like, they'll promise you like 170, 180. And then I'm like, I need 250 if I'm looking at this. Oh my God, what? Or this guy actually told me, I brought up like the aesthetics, right? And I made a comment about the aesthetics. And he's like, oh yeah, I heard a rep making 275. Can you imagine that? And I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of my next goal is like 300. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And he's like,
that's
and
my
his face
future
was like, bam. And
expectation
then
here.
like right away, I joke around right away. I'm like, can't work for you because that means you've been in this industry for 15, 20 years and you've never made that. I'm not trying to work for somebody who's never who hasn't helped me. Right. Because I talked to like one of my buddies, he just left. One of the reps he's going to beat, they made over 350, you know? So when I say that to a manager, I bring that up purposely in my interviews to see how they react because I'm going to be able to see how they feel. Because
that's
here's
definitely
the thing
good.
too. We all know managers are supposed to make more, right? But I know managers that I probably make more money than them because they're not performing and they do stuff.
No, I would, and I want to say that's even such a misconception. Like, I think now my manager and in the space that I'm in, yes, they make a significant amount of money
Yep.
because of what they do and like
And also
what you need to do to get into that role.
well.
But I would say, yeah, I would say though, like at big box companies like Stryker and Medtronic and Zimmer and things like that, that manager, I would say most managers, 70% probably make less than most of their reps. And that's because their job is a little bit more simple. They're just managing the rep. They don't have the looming number. It's there, but they're putting that pressure on the rep.
Well, and
that pressure's not necessarily on them.
Like half the time I've said this, like usually it's Excel sheets, reminders, and telling me what I need to do with marketing and customer service. That's what like I'm getting from. And again, we're coaching from our managers too, right? Like I'm not saying they don't do that, but I'm like, okay, like if my manager's gone for 3 weeks, I figure it out. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna just fall apart and not make it work. But yeah, no, I talked to my a manager as well, and it's like they told me crazy enough is like we get a bonus, like I told you, 15 or 30%. They get like a bonus sheet. I think what they say, I think it was like 3% over their quota. So yeah, it's a big quota, but it was it was something like crazy of like, yeah, they could do $1 million over, and that's a $30,000 check. Like compared to if you're a rep, and you get that 30%, you could be $100,000 over and get that $30,000 check. You know, like so. There's just like differences.
Yeah, it's a big difference in like pay structure. I know at Cintas, all the really good reps made more money than the managers. And again, I think it's just the stress level of the differences in stress level and the fact that like sometimes, managers just want to be coaches, like you're not in that management role to make the big bucks. Like you don't want to be the sales rep anymore and you're a better coach and you're fine making a steady income compared to having like a low base salary and all of your money coming from your commissions. And one thing that we didn't touch on though, before like we end all of this is, people that are interviewing and you're looking to leave the role that you're in, check your exit clause, because a lot of times too, like when I worked at Olympus, I had a company that wanted to hire me and they were going to be selling disposable scopes. And I'm still friends with one of the guys that I interviewed with. And that guy is killing it right now. And disposable scopes became like the next big thing. Like everybody wants to use them. Ambulances use them. So many companies are adopting this. And I saw that. And I was like, I want to get into this. Like, kind of like we're talking about startups and things like that. Like this was the pinnacle of getting in. This was the first company doing this. And the guy is killing it right now. And the reason that I got the offer, and the offer was contingent that I didn't have a non-compete. And I was just too much of a pussy to be like, hey, HR, can I get my non-compete clause to figure out like if I could go take this other role? And so I just had to pass on it. And I still wonder, dude, because like that guy makes like over 300K and I'm like, did I miss out? Like did I even not have a non-compete and I could have been there?
And maybe this is, let's just be straight up. This will probably bite me in the ass one of these days. But like being young and dumb, and that I blame it on my young and dumb. I will do it till the day I die. I'm like, I learned real fast in life, instead of asking for permission, you just do it and ask for forgiveness, and if you get hit with a lawsuit, I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, let's see what we can figure out, man.
I was thinking, I mean, I thought about it, dude. I told them, I was like, listen, it's two completely different spaces. I'm an ENT. You're telling me to sell the GI. I get that it's scopes, but this and that. And, but they had an ENT product coming out. And I was like, dude, that ENT product's not going to come out for another year. My non-compete's only a year. So I could still do this other one, but they were just too afraid to like take it on without like a paper from HR essentially saying, this is what it is. And to this day, man, I'm still like, did I miss out? Did I miss out? That was a startup that's
crazy,
crushing
man.
it
That's
right
crazy.
now.
I love it.
Out.
But no, man, I think that was a great session of just going over quota and like this is really breakdown and talking about pay because this is stuff people don't. And we went on things like I tell people, these are conversations you and I as reps are having once you're in for 2, 3, 4 years because now we're talking money. Like we're actually, it's no longer the associate. Now it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then even right now, man, I've just had said this. I feel like it's a reps market right now. I'm talking to people that are getting 50, 60, 80K bases higher just at plan to go to a different company. Because if you're a good rep, they're looking for it. You know, so like this is like, again, and I actually, I'll end on this, is I saw a guy talking about like, hey, how do you increase money, especially during COVID and inflations? And they said you're actually losing money if you're not interviewing with a company for every 2 years. If you stay at a company longer than 2 years, you're losing money because what happens, let's do my company, for example, perfect example, right? I'm at this plan. Well, I've been here for about 2 years, which is great. But after I hit this quota, I already know what's going to happen. They're going to say, Jake, great job. You hit both buckets. We increased your quota for next year, so you're going to have to work way harder just to make the same amount of money. But the money we give you this year it's $10,000 more. Wink at me and say, good job. And now I'm going to make 10 grand, right? But then I can go and look and I'm like, well, I already have an offer on the table for 40 grand more right now to actually work less. Like, that's why I'm saying you've got to look at this stuff. Because most people will stay, and then again, you have your security of your job, right? But like, let's just be straight up. Like I say this again, we do it because we love it, but also we're here to make a living and also financially do well. Like $60K, that's a person's salary. I could literally, you could leave today, go make someone's whole salary just from a jump on top of what you do. So that's why I just think I want to encourage everybody who's doing this. Once you guys get in and you do it, yes, you need to have loyalty. Yes, you need to learn. But at the same respect, this is your job. This is your life. And you need to protect you and do what's best for you because no matter what you do in life, there's always going to be people who aren't big fans of it.
And to like just finish with that, it is like, most of the people watching or listening are coming as an associate, and they're not going to get promoted from an associate in their same territory to a full rep. So this is like, news flash for you. Like while you're an associate, interview for full rep roles, because that is at like the loyalty that you give as an associate is basically just your bread and butter to get into the industry. Because after that, you're the one, just like you just said, you're the one cashing your own ticket. Because if not, like, what are you going to do? Give your loyalty as an associate for the next 3 years? Dude, you just missed out on 2 other opportunities the last 2 years to be a full rep.
Associate rep. He had been here for 3 years. The role came open in his territory. He didn't get it. And I remember having the conversation. I was like, dude, you got to get the heck out of here. What are you doing? Like, you've been here for 3 years. Like, the average associate's here for 2 years. You have the experience. You know you can do this. Go make more money. Like, go be a full-line sales rep. Even, like, that's one of my things I get really pissed about is I will talk with, like, my company. And it matters what division. Some of them will be like, they can't even get looked at being promoted for 2 years. And I'm like, I talked to one of my guys. He's been in for 11 or 13 months, crushing it, had all the relationships, had closed another $100,000 of deals when the territory manager was out, and they wouldn't consider him because they didn't have enough experience. But he's running the whole territory and making money for the territory when no one's there. But they wanted to still pay him half the amount of money. And I'm like, dude, go get your money. Like, go do your thing. So 100%. And let's end on this because everybody thinks your company's loyal. Until COVID or something happens and it's business, they're not loyal. They'll cut you the first chance they get. That's why I laugh. I'm a realist.
Yeah.
Like, again, we've said this. Me and Pierre, you're like, we're putting ourselves out here to make these channels for you guys. It literally takes one person to get mad, report it to HR. HR sees it. They don't like what's one thing I say. They don't want me to recommend their thing, and I'm fired. That's all it takes. And I know that. Like, I'm okay with the risk. Most people I've had talks with Pierre. Most people try to be hard asses and say they're cool and they don't give a crap and they'll get fired and all this. And most are back. Then they, in the same sentence, are like backtracking everything they said. But like, honestly, like, you know, you just got to be true to yourself. And I understand. I've said this from day one. I will live and die on my own sword. If I get fired because of the stuff I'm putting out, it's all on me. And I understand that, you know, so like that, I think that's a mindset you guys should all have. But again, just understand loyalty is important, but these companies, these big companies will cut you the first chance they get. They don't care about you or your family.
Exactly. I mean, we're in sales just like mercenaries are, and that's the way that I say it. I'm a mercenary for hire, man. Whoever wants to pay me the best money, I'm in. Let's have a conversation. And on that one, man, this was a great conversation. The next one, I feel like we're gonna have some more really good shit to keep talking about. So everybody, tune in next week. We should be going live. And if you made it this long, you guys are true legends.
Peace.
And until next week, guys, we're out.